Hello everyone. In this video, we'll talk about chapter 16, From the Sun Also Rises. So at this point, all of the major characters have now been introduced to us. All the major players are here, and so not surprisingly, we have a number of new issues and sort of continuing issues that arise or come to a head in some regard. The first one, and perhaps most notably, is that finally, right, Brett completely rejects Robert. Okay. Cone, who has been trailing her ever since their encounter in San Sebastian. In fact, in previous chapters, it's implied that Cone returned to San Sebastian before Brett and Mike had arrived at Pamplona, almost like a lost puppy dog, right? Trailing after her, constantly seeking her attention. And finally, she lashes out at him and rejects him completely, and even tells Jake that she's just sick of him pursuing her over and over and over again. Uh, we also have a moment of betrayal, perhaps from somebody we wouldn't necessarily expect. I think most of us at this point, certainly most readers, tend to think of Jake as sort of the heroic protagonist figure with the book. However, Montoya, right, his fellow aficionado, his fellow bullfighting enthusiast, turns to Jake, right, in an attempt to protect the young bullfighter, the young Romero, from the more destructive ways of Jake's friends. However, right, Jake completely betrays that trust, right? He introduces Romero not just to his friends, but even goes as far as to fix him up with what is ostensibly a date with Brett. And at this point, it's blatantly obvious to readers that Brett is a destructive figure, right? She's a destructive character. Think about sort of the ever growing list of characters that she's sort of leaving in her wake, whether it's Jake, Robert. I think you can put Mike into that mix as well, thinking about his constant behavior, his destructive alcoholic behavior. And so the question becomes, is she going to continue to be that corruptive, harmful force with the much younger Romero, and in a lot of ways the more naive Romero? Certainly, he's more naive than the people we just mentioned. We're also seeing sort of a building tension amongst this different group and the different little relationships and conflicts within the group. As I said before, right, Brett lashes out at Cone, and on top of that, she also confides in Jake that she feels a sense of guilt, which is somewhat surprising, especially given the conversation we had about her possible morality in the previous chapter. She feels guilt about what she's done with Cone while being engaged to Mike. And as that conversation continues, Jake admits to Brett, right, that he loves her, and then in turn says that she is in love with Romero. And as part of this ongoing conversation, Jake admits to her that, look, I'd be as he says, I'd be as big an ass as Cone. All right. And in that moment, we get a sense for, how much Jake really does want to be with Brett. And also, this characterization in terms of Robert as Jake's foil, Robert sort of existing in order to make Jake look better. And that sort of fits in, right? I mean, he says he would be as big an ass as Cone, but he doesn't actually do it, right? So making himself look better. And then on top of all of that, you've got Mike continually getting more and more frustrated by the presence of Cone, right? And specifically his inability to kind of get beyond and move past that affair that he knows has happened, to the point where Cone and him almost come to blows. And really, Robert is sort of looking forward to that. Uh, Hemingway mentions about, or through Jake anyway, mentions, Robert standing up, fists at the ready to sort of prove himself, right? Don't forget, Cone is an accomplished boxer and Mike is a drunk. So really, it wouldn't be much of a fight at all. So Robert may be looking forward to that, or maybe sort of itching to sort of prove himself to be as masculine, if you will, as Mike. That also, right, would tie into our insider versus outsiders idea. Cone is an outsider, and perhaps in that physical confrontation, that combat, if you will. Perhaps he believes he can be a part of that crowd. Finally, there are more and more jokes really aimed at Jake, and I'm not going to go into the specific details or point out the very specific lines, but Hemingway continually uses different phallic jokes, uh, definitely meant to poke fun at Jake and his condition, and it's it's noticeable in that he hardly ever misses an opportunity to remind us as his audience of Jake's condition. And so the question becomes why? Right? Is that a byproduct of that hyper masculinity image that he has cultivated? Does it speak more to his, and I'm talking about Hemingway now, his own insecurities? Really, that's for us as an audience to decide. Well, that does it for chapter 16. Please let me know if you have questions about the reading or any concerns about any of the work. You can always email me, reach out through Google Classroom, or log into the virtual office hours Monday through Friday from 10 to noon. Take it easy.